Welcome back to Wellness in Minutes, where we give you bite-sized health information that's easy to digest. Be sure to check out the show notes for details on the full episode and more from the Food Matters podcast.
For those that are listening and that are quite new to this conversation on cacao, so cacao is actually the active ingredients of cacao. They're bioflavonoids, and they're able to stimulate part of our brain that releases serotonin and feel-good hormones, right? So that's why we turn to cacao when we're not feeling good, and all of a sudden, like, look at us, we're lighting up talking about cacao because we know how it feels, right? It's certain sense in our body. And so, yes, in regards to the types of triggers that it allows in our heart, how does it actually work? Because I also do. I lead cacao ceremonies. I do sound healing. And the reason why I feel that there is such an impact with people afterwards, and when they come to me and say, I don't know, something just changed inside of me, something opened up. What would you say from a spirituality, now that you're an initiate, what would you say is this inside the cacao, or the spirit of cacao, that would lead us to this opening?
Yeah, and there's so many things that I can share about what can go into the experience of somebody feeling wholesome and whole after experiencing cacao. But first, with just for the foodies out there, with the biological impacts of cacao, it's as you mentioned, high flavonoid. It's a vasodilator. It's literally an aphrodisiac in its purest form, and our culture and society attributes being an aphrodisiac to sexuality and to, like, oh, we only buy a box of chocolates for Valentine's Day. It's aphrodisiac, or oysters, etc. But the true usage of aphrodisiac, if we are intentional about it, is the self-inquiry aspect. It's that it's putting us in this loving state, literally biologically, with these compounds and chemicals. Not to mention it's loaded with iron, magnesium, and it's supporting our whole experience in our body, so that we can rest into our nervous system. We can rest into the sympathetic part that might be coiled up. So from a biological level, it's offering us support that way, just as a superfood, like a superfood. And then spiritually, we're in this space where Mesoamerican cultures have worked with the spirit of cacao for thousands and thousands of years, as a deity, as for fertility. And specifically the Mayans, they, in their cosmovision, they say they're the people of the corn. They come from the corn, and corn is very old, and it's revered and highly regarded in these communities. And they say that the cacao has been around as long as corn, which says it's a really, really old food. And then, based on science and other things, it says the cacao tree is millions of years old, very ancient. So if we take the same mindset that we spoke about earlier, as I mentioned, with when we cook a meal, like we're using oregano, we're using this, everything has a spirit. Cacao also has a spirit, a very, very powerful, nurturing one. And it's not masculine nor feminine. It can show up for somebody in any way. Just like spirits don't have a gender disposition, they can show up in any way that we need. Same thing with cacao, but it's nurturing. So when you mix the superfood compound aspect, and then you mix the energetic components of this, like, very resilient tree, this food, it makes for a powerful experience, no matter what you're leading with it.
I love this conversation. And let's bring it back to the issues that we're dealing with in our modern society and how this plant could help. So we're dealing with a lot of, I would say, addictions, addictions to alcohol, addictions to different types of drugs. I would say street drugs, even, where people are just like, I need to get out of my body. I need to get out of this pain, and I'm just turning to something. You mentioned before about how you sat with cacao, you sat with plant medicine, and you consumed that every day, and you allowed that to be infused in your body. Can you give advice or some consultations for somebody that's working currently, that's dealing with addictions, that are dealing with the pain and suffering of what we call third dimension, the world that we live in? What would you say in regards to those that are dealing with those issues? What would you give advice on?
I would say that having a cup of cacao, and specifically without any sweeteners, without anything added, just warm water with cacao mixed up or blended up as is, um, it creates a pause in your life, a very healthy pause. Um, I have really close friends and family members who are addicts and are in recovery. And the name of the game, as they went through AA, they would say it's like you're always going to be an addict. That's what they say to like the people. They say you're always going to be an addict. You know, it's about what are the things you're going to be addicted to? Like, is it what kind of lifestyle? So I would say with Cacao, um, it offers that pause and self-reflection. And even if it's for 5 minutes drinking the cup, like you're loading yourself with these superfoods and you don't even have to do anything. It's about just drinking it and giving yourself the space just to breathe and be like, okay, like this is what we're doing. It's really challenging for many people to just sit and stare at a wall. One of my teachers always encourages to try to watch grass grow if you're in nature, as long as you can. As long as you can try to watch grass grow. Try to watch a blade of grass grow and see how far you get. First time I tried it, didn't last 10 seconds before my mind went somewhere else because I started chasing like a dragonfly. It's like, watch that grass grow. So cacao in its own right is an opportunity to watch the grass grow, because most of the problems that we have, it's not because we can't solve them. It's because we're not giving ourselves space to be able to solve them or to at least feel a different way about them.
That's really beautiful. Like you're saying, it's so important for us to see perspective, to get that reverence, and to be able to see that there is a way out. We're never stuck. We're never, this feeling of fog. We never have to experience that once we allow ourselves that clear path. So, and that, I feel like that food does that. Food is usually the way in for a lot of people. It's whether we're dealing with heart issues or heartache, or we're dealing with emotional or mental issues, or we're dealing with chronic conditions. Food is usually the way in, right? And can you tell us a little bit more about what you would prescribe and what you help people with in regards to food, and what type of philosophy around food that are people dealing with illness and chronic fatigue or chronic problems in the gut?
Yeah, I'm one of the big advocates. Like I love supplementation with high quality supplements. Even if you're eating wholesome organic foods that you grow or you're from the farmer's market, I still highly encourage supplements, high quality supplements, because um, let's face it as well, the soil isn't the same that it was when it was 100 years ago, 200 years ago, a long time ago. It's not the same. So a lot of the minerals and things that's in the soil is not the same. So let's say my ancestors, when they would eat a yam, it was way different of eating a yam than it's the one we can get in the grocery store now, based on the density of the nutritional components. So I always encourage supplementation and also consulting a health coach, health professional, just to see like what we're lacking, what we're not lacking. Um, and when it comes to food, it's like I focus on the gut like so much. Like gut health is everything to me, because I've seen people reverse depression, reverse anxiety, all the things just from supplementation and focusing on their gut biome. Literally is that like waking up in the morning, eating, if eating some sauerkraut with some spirulina and some cacao, and then literally changing their body's composition and how they think based on feeding their gut biome. Because as you're familiar too, it's like I feel we don't put enough emphasis on the 80-20 in our gut, the 80-20, the 80 good and the 20 bad. And like, we don't allow them to, let's say, spar enough, the 80 to go against the 20. And the ratio is a kind of like messed up. We need the 20%, quote unquote, bad gut biome to keep us healthy and strong for the outside threats. So for me, it's like, it's a privilege to be in a space in my life where I can freely pray and walk my life and give reverence to this world, to nature. And it's like my responsibility as well is also to keep my body in shape, keep my temple in shape. Like as simple as that. Um, have you seen the news docu-series on Netflix, the Blue Zone, the Blue Zone? It's like Live to 100.
I've just started watching it. Yeah, it's really good. It's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. And it's like those things too, like the quality of the things we're putting in our bodies, and then not just eating it, but it's like how it's prepared. There's conversations happening with family. There's laughter happening. Like all these things matter going into a meal. I always say to everybody, when I'm in Latin America, I literally, the food to me tastes different. Like when I come back to the States, like it feels dead to me. Like I don't go to restaurants when I'm in the States because the food just doesn't feel alive to me. I always encourage my clients to eat alive things, eat things with a lot of solar energy, things that needed a lot of sun to grow, direct sunlight. Like it's so important you take that energy into your body as well. So those are some things that I use like overall, but I'm big on eating live foods and eating very fresh foods, and also a very well balanced diet. Like me personally, I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan. Um, I eat very similar as I can to what my DNA calls for, what my ancestry is. I would say I'm 80-20, similar to a chimpanzee, which is like, our closest relatives in the kingdom besides fungi. But 80-20 is what I strive for. 80% plant-based and 20% meat products and things. So yeah, just wholesome, and a variety of things.
So yes, thank you everyone for listening. I really enjoyed that talk. I hope you did too. And there will be more of these on the Food Matters podcast. So head to foodmatters.com and see you again.